genuinely, it's not working. I've tried it like 10 different times.
Okay, well, obviously you didn't try hard enough because it's recorded now.
Oh. Well, thank you.
Yeah, sure. Oh, we still on for lunch?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, cool.
Right. I don't know what's been up with all the technology lately. This office is old. This thing won't even record video anymore. We just use the audio since it's got a mic and we can't really rely on all the new stuff. Anyways, this is Hide Arcrate, main entry log for the index of the In-Humanic. Weekly update. Topaz has changed their hair. Again. Shocker. It's this, very pink now. I mean, I know they do their cosmetology stuff on the side, but really it's impressive how often they change it. I mean, I can barely get away with purple in mine, and I'm worried it'll all fall out. What else? Oh, Elijah managed to lose yet another digital copy of an entry. That background in IT is starting to sound a little flimsy, if you ask me. But he edits these, so I guess I shouldn't be too hard. I think that's about it. Yeah. On to business. Here we have entry H-03282016-01. Entry was submitted by one Charlie Crooked Dalton, March 28th, 2016. It seems to be involving screaming horses. Entry starts as follows.
Remember when it first happened? And I mean the exact moment. It was 8:25 p.m. on a Thursday. It feels a little random to face a paranormal farm animal on any given day of the week, but it feels even more random because I hardly checked on the horses at all that day. Maybe that's why they started screaming. The winter months have been rough. We don't get much snow down here, but we do get a wind chill like you wouldn't believe. It gets so bad that your hair will whip into your eyes and mouth, so you have to give it your whole attention to pull it from your face. I live on a ranch. Anything you can think of I've dabbled in. I've got cows, chickens, pigs, sheep, a couple of dogs, a barn cat I named Spooky, and of course, the horses. Well, the horses aren't mine. They're apparently wild, which is rare in this county, and the woman down the road suggested I get them into my pasture and care for them. They built some fancy car lot not too far down the road, and she was worried about them getting hit. So I did. I'm a sucker for old ladies who are worried about the world, and maybe she bribed me with some homemade loaf of apple cinnamon bread. And so with a couple of apples from her tree, I lured the horses into the fenced-in pasture. I started feeding them so they had a reason to stay, and then eventually they just roamed around and got used to my other animals. I never paid them much mind. I don't like riding horses much, so they're just there to make the green look pretty for passers-by, which seems to be what they were, because when you got road trippers out here, you could hear them yelling horsey from outside their rolled-down windows. Always cracks me up. But like I said, they weren't mine. So aside from leaving out food, I never interacted with them much at all. And they were free to leave. The fence isn't high enough that they can't get bored and leave, but they stick around. They're just there in the background while I do my daily chores. Every day I take a carton with me and I fill it with eggs from the hens around 6 a.m., feed them scratch grain, and I feed the cows their hay and sit down and milk them. By then it's 7:45 a.m. and I'll leave to go feed the pigs. And I remember on the day that it started, sure, the horses were staring a little bit, but that's not uncommon. I'd walk past and there they were out in the field. I fed the pigs, I shoveled up their pen, it was getting filthy. Then I fed the sheep and let them out onto the pasture. Dogs played out in my yard, watching the sheep in case anything snuck under the fence by the far side by the woods, and they seemed put off by the horses that day too. They went around them in wide arcs just to avoid them. And they were usually careful of the horses' hooves, but it seemed a little excessive, but I mean they're dogs, you know, so I didn't bother. I went to the gardens. I was pulling out what died that winter in order to start tilling the dirt for the next season. It was early February when this happened, so I was planning to start growing again. A couple hours went by and I was heading past the fence to get near the far side of the woods. I had a compost spot back there, so I was wheeling out the old crop bits, and there they were again, mostly motionless out in the field. Spooky, the barn cat, was running out through the grass, cutting through the field just to get to me. She meowed obnoxiously loud as per usual. She's deaf in one ear, and I think she likes to hear herself talk. This is the only thing that strikes me as odd. Spooky was a bold cat. In the past 3 years since I penned in the horses, she'd usually hop up onto their back and curl up there. She liked to be carried around under the sun, and it was a sunny day, never mind the wind. But instead, she hopped up on the fence and onto my shoulders so I could carry her around. Her front and back paws hang on either side of my neck, and the sun beats down on her dark fur, and the back of my neck starts to sweat. I remember going to the market to sell the milk from the day before, and doing a few other errands, and I got home around 6 p.m. It was starting to get darker out, the sun dipping below the trees of the forest, and I could see the dogs rounding up the sheep. And in the distance, I could see the shadows of the horses out in the landscape. I went to bed like everything was normal. And it was, really, but as I laid down on my bed, facing the ceiling with the window behind my head, I heard it. A loud, guttural scream. Now we get foxes, and they sound an awful lot like people sometimes, but this wasn't that. It wasn't any kind of coyote yelp, no. It was a loud scream, like someone was getting the wind knocked out of their lungs while they screamed for all hell. I sat up, I turned, looking out the window, and there they were. All 5 were at the corner of the pasture fence, staring directly up at me. Their dark eyes looked bright, as if a picture was taken and the flash was bouncing off their pupils. I think the first thing to run through my head was wondering what would happen if I went down there to check on them. The way they looked at me, it was hungry. Their mouths hang open wide and dislocated like a snake, and the screams come from deep in their chests. I wondered if the neighbors would complain, and I was already prepared to tell them that they weren't even mine. I got up, I headed downstairs. Spooky was already there waiting at the door, eyes wide and fur on end, hissing wildly. I tried shooing her away from the door, but she swatted at my skin. She eventually let me through, and I stepped out onto the side half porch, squinting into the dark over the fields. The screaming persisted, making me cover my ears, and there was this buzzing underneath that made my ears strain. I remember they said something, like actual human words, and I couldn't hear what it was at first. It was garbled and messy sounding, like someone who had one too many and was trying to recite something by memory. But I think it might have been
Never again.
Now, a horse speaking is definitely a shock, but I have no idea what they were referring to, so I stepped to move off the porch, feet hitting the cold gravel, and I started off towards the fence. I couldn't see much as I got closer. The damn porch light wasn't helping much from this far away. But I heard the sound of splintering wood crack over the deafening sound of those screams. The next few minutes were a bit of a blur. I remember the horses breaking through the fence. The wood seemed to peel back for them as they rushed out, all 5 of them towards me. I felt them swarm me, and blunt teeth bit at my skin. Not the friendly nips like they did when I was feeding them, but they fully bit down into the flesh of my arms. I tried to get away, but they surrounded me. Each new scream, each mumbled word, made me feel like I had no sense of direction. Like if I could run, then it would make my head spin too much and I'd topple over. I don't know how long I was out there, but as the sky got to that blue haze of the morning, they suddenly stopped. I opened my eyes, I guess I closed them at one point, and they just stared at me blankly. Normal horse stares. One nuzzled into my face softly and gave me one of those huffs that made your skin wet from the exhale. And they meandered back through the broken pasture fence. It never happened again, but I heard you guys collect stories like these, so I figured I'd get it off my chest. I know I sound crazy, and sometimes when I look out my window at night, I swear I see them huddled there by the broken section of the fence, staring at me. The entry ends there. An odd one, that's for sure. Jay did some research on the farm itself, which seems to be in Sadalia, Missouri, when he looked into Dalton. Before him, an old man lived there. There's not much in the way of records on the place. It seems to have been owned by one family up until Dalton took residence there. According to reports by police, before Charlie Dalton moved in, the old man disappeared and he was never found. Outreach team, well, reached out to Charlie Dalton and he didn't seem to have much more to say. The horses haven't acted out again and he seems content with the entry he provided. It does strike me as odd, though. The thing those horses seem to have said. When Miles and Katie took a comment from the old woman, she said that there were 6 horses, not 5, which makes me wonder what happened to it. And that old man. That's all there is to it. Let's see if this recording sticks around, or if Elijah loses it again.